Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I want to touch in on part 2 of my videos on persuasion, inspired by one of my friends who's been watching my videos, getting in touch and asking me about this. So again, thank you very much for that question. But we talked the other day, we talked Tuesday, about the side of persuasion that is very much buttering people up, arguably even the kind of stereotypical teenager coming up to mum and dad and being like, "Mum, Dad," and kind of being complimentary or helpful or whatever else just to try and get their way afterwards. But this section that I'm going to move on to today is very much more about kind of seeking goals and resolutions and things like that. It's the kind of tactics that are used by coaches like myself when looking to discuss and persuade if we need to, which isn't often by comparison to some, but still. It's used an awful lot by interviewers and debaters who are very public forum kind of discussions and debates. And then on top of that, we're looking much more at the kind of elements used in things like hostage negotiation and stuff like that, where it's very much a case of trying to limit the potential acting out caused, and the only actions taken are the ones that will get constructive results. And so as a result, there are kind of 5 steps to this kind of process, because as I've talked before about the coaching process that I use, which has kind of between 4 and 5 parts to it overall. This follows a very similar kind of pattern, where you start off with active listening and taking account of what the other person is saying and making sure that they know that you are listening. The empathizing, the kind of showing that you understand where they're coming from and how they feel and why they feel that way to an extent. And then building rapport, where you're kind of feeling empathy, but then they also feel that you are empathizing with them, and as a result, like, at least an element of trust and consistency starts to develop between the interactions that you're having with that individual or group potentially. At which point, then you're looking at the kind of influencing area, where you're actually getting the persuasion in, where you are actually kind of looking for a course of action, where you're looking for the things to achieve with that person. And then the last part is obviously actually getting that person or the two of you, or whatever it is, the activity that is being talked about or persuaded on or whatever else. Then that last section, that part 5, is just going and doing that. And so I want to break this down a little more, because obviously I've just given you a list of 5 things that happen, and it's kind of nebulous. But let's get into this a little more, because let's talk kind of active listening first, because active listening is a thing that lots of people think they do, but they don't necessarily. And as a result, the way that you listen is important, because when people are telling you everything, then they are telling you all of the ways that by kind of listening to what they're saying and actually taking an interest, you will find the ways between the lines of what they're saying to either pick them apart if you're having a very direct debate, or it's the areas where you can find their wiggle room. It's where they are going to be changeable. They are hanging and hiding all of the keys to their various fortress doors in like various very obvious hiding places outside, and they are literally telling you where they are. And you just need to learn to listen so that you can actually have a hope of finding them. And so the first thing is, you don't interrupt or disagree or evaluate whilst they're speaking. You let them speak. The most you should do is acknowledge them speaking and what they're saying, which ultimately comes down to going kind of okay, and stuff like that, where you're just giving them little indicators of the fact that you're listening and you're taking on what they're saying. And then again, kind of repeating back, getting the gist, paraphrasing what they're saying, just kind of going, okay, so you're saying this. Blah. Yeah? Because if you do that, then again, it shows you're listening. Yeah, it's a demonstration of the fact that they have provided information to you and you are able to provide it back. Maybe not in the same way, you're not just parroting it, but you're able to provide it back to them so that they can either know that you know what they mean, or so that they can provide further clarification if what you've said so far hasn't come back to them as being exactly right. Yeah, and that's important, especially on the hostage negotiation side where these things are used, because obviously you don't want the wrong step being taken. And then the last part on the kind of active listening is you need to ask questions. Yeah, and the asking questions, you shouldn't interrupt them to ask a question necessarily, but when they've finished saying something, and if you need more clarity, again, you need to have shown that you were listening, because if you weren't listening, then you won't have the information to then ask the question. Which again kind of comes into the paraphrasing element of it, but it's instead of just kind of reiterating stuff back to them, so that they can kind of point out any flaws in what you've said and correct you, you're actually asking, like, is this specific situation that you're describing here, is this how you mean it, is this what you actually want specifically, and it allows you to be a little bit more direct in the information that you're getting, but also it again shows that person that you're listening. Yeah, and also in regards to questioning, a questioning can be really difficult, as someone that's literally asking questions more so than anything else in the way that I would conduct a coaching session. The open-ended questions are important. Because yes, no, as soon as it's one word, and once they've said it, that's it. It's cut off. You don't have that opportunity for the active listening, for showing that you're listening and showing that you're caring as well, which is something we'll get onto in a minute. Now, I mentioned this before as well, but the power of silence is incredibly effective. Yeah, because you've asked a question, you've asked a question, or you've repeated back to them what the kind of gist of what they've said to you, and yet they've like hit a silence, and they're thinking about it, or they're not sure what to say, or they think they've said enough, but you're not sure they have. Yeah, leave it silence. Just leave the silence, because you don't have to be uncomfortable with an uncomfortable silence in these situations. Yeah, you're only uncomfortable if you let yourself be uncomfortable. It's only awkward if you let yourself feel that it's awkward. But that silence is going to want to be filled. And if you're in control and you're like, well, I'm waiting for the information from you, then they will look to fill the silence, and they will kind of move in to put that stuff in there. They will try to fill that gap. So then furthermore, moving on to the kind of more emotive side of things, where you're being empathic. Again, we've already been asking questions, and we've already been getting, repeating the gist back to them, and nodding and showing that we're following along with what they're saying. And so as a result, they're kind of taking stuff on board. But then, like, in the reiteration side of things, to get more of that kind of empathy and that potential trust flowing back and forth, so that then the persuasion, the kind of getting people on board with you on your idea or the thing that you need to do or whatever, it's kind of pulling up that useful information that's very emotive, and actually kind of reiterating that back as well. So if someone's talking to you and that they're very angry about a thing that you're discussing, once they've finished what they're saying, sum it up and reiterate it, or kind of repeat it back to them, or the gist of it back to them, but focus maybe more on the emotion side, so that you're showing that you're not just understanding what they're saying, but how they're feeling as they're saying it. So if someone's very angry, then saying something more along the lines of, so that seems to make you like very angry, and that doesn't seem like what's happened doesn't seem fair, yeah, or something like that. Then that's something that's gonna show that maybe you're picking up more on that, and that's how you kind of reiterating back their state as well as just purely what they've said, is going to allow for that kind of back and forth a little more. And remember, the rapport isn't just when you're feeling empathy towards them, but when they're also recognizing that there's empathy back the other way, and there's an understanding coming. And so if you're able to go, because you in these situations should be calm and should be focused and collected, them then though realizing that you can experience and kind of appreciate what they're feeling, this is an indicator to them to go, okay, yeah, this person is feeling this, is experiencing this in a similar way to me. And so it allows for that kind of build up between the two of you as things go on, at which point then subsequent to that, the actual the actual influencing part, this is where things like investment bias might come in extreme situations where, if you're working with someone and you're building that rapport and you're making those observations, you're asking the questions, and you've got to stage 3, which is just the rapport. So you got that understanding between the two of you, that relationship. Then the next thing, of course, is the influencing, but obviously that can potentially be a bit of a jump. And so the way to do that, though, is you start off slow. And especially with investment bias and things like that, or with the wanting to pay people back, we don't like being indebted to people, then, the first things to start off with doing would be maybe to be, after you've got that rapport going, it'd be you offering your help first. You putting out that olive branch, you taking that first step out on the other person's behalf to try and gain some middle ground. Yeah? And make it something small or something easy for you, something that you were potentially going to do anyway to one extent or another, but it allows you to then go, okay, well, I'm going to build this up. Yeah? I'm going to do this for you on this thing, and then this for you, and then this for you. That next thing, though, if you want me to do that, then I'm going to need something back from you. Yeah? And it allows it to become more of a transaction, but there is some trust built there. There is that appreciation, that empathy between the two of you. And as a result, then the actions taken, the behavioral changes, the outcomes are going to be more likely to come forward because, you've built up that understanding, you've built up that trust between the two of you. You have shown good faith and you have done things on their behalf potentially, and so now they're going to do the same back. Yeah, or flip it around the other way and have it very much be more of a case of if they do a thing, then they are going to be rewarded. Yeah, I would personally potentially lean more towards the first, just because, especially if it's someone that you don't know, then taking that first step, putting yourself out there first. Even if it's in a discussion, so it's not actually doing a thing and it's just purely trying to get someone on behind an idea that you already have, then the way to do that more would be to go, well, I'm willing to concede that on this thing that you're right. Yeah? So if you were having a political debate, I will concede to you, now that we've started having this discussion, and I can appreciate why you do what you do, and I hope you can appreciate what I do. The way that I want to tackle this next part is, I can concede to you that these policies that your political party have are actually pretty good and they're actionable. But can you also then kind of concede to me that these policies that I have aren't evil and so on, as you've suggested so far? You can get that middle ground and kind of take it, and as a result gain more support on it through kind of just taking that first step, showing how the conversation is going to go, and then leading the other person to it. But otherwise, I hope this has been helpful. Again, thank you very much to my friend Chris for dropping me a message about this and about persuasion as a topic that he would like me to cover. Again, if you guys have ideas for topics and things that you want to ask, then there are all manner of social media links down in the description that you can send me your questions and suggestions to, or leave them down in the comments. And otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you found this interesting and useful, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.